Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Resurrecting the Renaissance Behind the Scenes. I'm Raquel McKenzie, your host for this lovely interview. And we have with us today Trey Peace, one of our performers who will be on the second installment of Resurrecting the Renaissance. So let's get to know Trey a little bit. Trey, tell us a little bit about yourself.
What do you want to know? I was
Everything.
born in long story. I was born in Buffalo, New York. Left when I was 7. My family moved to the Navajo reservation to Ganado. My mom was a doctor and she just finished med school. And so we were going to a hospital out there. We were there for about a year and a half. Moved to Pine Top after that, which is still in Arizona, but like next to the White Mountain Apache Reservation. She was out there for a bit. I started dancing there. Well, officially started there. I took like a class that drives out years beforehand, but officially started dancing there. And that's when I was like, you know what? I want to do this acting thing when I was about like 12. And so here I am.
So you've been acting
Traveled.
since 12.
No, there wasn't really, I mean, like school productions, and that was more of in high school. And then and so I was like 14, 15. And then I decided at 12, started at like 14 or 15, traveled the country for a bit after I graduated. And so I didn't do anything in there. I was just like serving, doing a period of service with the Baha'i Faith, and then moved to Flagstaff. And it's just really bad at getting out there until I went to Theatricos's Northern Arizona Playwright Showcase in Flagstaff in 2018, 2019. And then because of that, I got involved with Stop Kiss, which is how I met you. And then things happened.
Now here you are.
Yeah.
Now you're a superstar. So what exactly made you want to be a performer? Was there a moment that you were like, oh, this is the reason why?
I don't know if I have like an actual reason. I like I said, I started dance, but it was even before. It was like the first recital hadn't even happened. It was in like my first year of taking a class. That I was like, I like this, but then like specifically, I want to go into acting and not dance.
Yeah.
And then and like even looking back before that, because I actually like my first official dance class was in New York, Buffalo, New York, but like when I was like 4 or 5, 6, something like that. And it was a breakdancing class, which I sucked at and I regret dropping out of years later. But the I remember going to, I want to say it was my mom's like commencement celebration or something. A lot of older people, all doctors or in the medical field, and I was there and they had music going on, and like at some point I found myself, I think, in like the middle of at least a small dance circle, like going off and
Like
not
classic
doing,
movie style.
yes, not doing anything good, of course, but like 4 or 5, 6 years old, something like that, going at it. So there's probably that. Granted, there are years after that where I was in like dance situations and didn't want to do anything. So before I started like taking dance classes, and so like I don't know when, and I don't like just going out and belting something out, but I don't mind like making a fool of myself in front of people. And
I think
then
that's a good characteristic for any performer.
um but then like having a script and like rehearsal time and stuff, I just thoroughly enjoy that process. And then actually getting to perform is also great. But
Right, of course. So let's fast forward a little bit. Like you said, we did meet doing Stop Kiss, and there was also I2 Sing America, that production that we did. And now we are here. So what made you want to do or be a part of directing the Renaissance?
uh so I want to get more experience because I haven't had a lot. And so there's that part of it. But I also don't know a whole lot or don't know a whole lot about the Renaissance. And so it's like, here's an excuse to like go in, dig in more, like talking to other people. They knew more about it than I did, had like some ideas for stuff, which didn't really pan out, but I got to learn more about it in that sense. Uh, I knew some of its reach. Like I knew that I believe the Harlem Globetrotters, even though they didn't come from Harlem, I want to say they were Chicago is where they started, but like they were piggybacking off of the Harlem Renaissance, um, and thus called themselves Harlem for that reason. Uh, and I think I more know about Harlem as it relates to Luke Cage, which is more like on the heel. I'm a huge geek.
Luckily I know what you're talking about because I
Yeah.
too have watched that. So
Yes. But like I believe his whole story kind of like comes on the heels, not necessarily on the heels of the Harlem Renaissance, but like revolves around the cultural expansion that happened in the Harlem Renaissance and more of like where it stands 80 years later or however many years the initial comic starts and then all the different. But
right.
yeah.
I think you touch on two main things when I had this idea and came to Southwest. You said two things, and those are the two things that I had in mind. I wanted to give Black performers more screen time. I wanted them to be seen more. I wanted people to see their faces because I still don't think we are where we need to be as far as, representation and inclusion and that whole thing. So I was like, you know what? I want to do this for my underserved community. And then the second was to also teach people about the Harlem Renaissance, because I learned about the Harlem Renaissance, I think, in maybe like middle school or something like that. And I just fell in love, and I fell into it on an accident. They didn't actually teach it. I kind of just found it. And I fell in love with this time where I was like, oh, look at all these like cool Black people that are like writing poetry in a new way and inventing jazz. And from jazz came the blues, and then from blues came country. And that's like how we have these genres today. I'm like, man, do a lot of people know? And I know depending on where you're raised, you either see it or you don't. And I'm like, you know what? I bet a lot of people don't know. And this would be a cool way to kind of teach them about something other than what we're used to seeing in classes, which is slavery. Like that is literally the epitome of being Black in this
Egypt
country.
isn't even like taught as being part of Africa. Like Egypt exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even remember when I learned Egypt was actually part of Africa, but it wasn't. It took a while because
Mm-hmm.
it was always like Egypt, and then Africa like came at some other point. But like,
Yeah, they're like not the same, not like they're Egypt in the continent, but that's another story for another time. But yeah, I'm my hope is that people will be like, hey, what is the Harlem Renaissance? What is it about? And bring it back, being the centennial of when it started. And in this time, we're like, wow, we really need this right now. People need to see a new light. I think it's great to educate people, and as well for people that don't know to know some of our background. I'm an immigrant, so I know a lot of my background comes from a different country, but I still grew up here. So I do feel a connection to the stories of Black Americans here. So it's hopefully to show, younger artists that there is representation, show non-artists or people who just like theater a different light. And so I am really glad to have you as a part of this. Now, my question to you is, the pieces you chose, we don't want to give it away too much, but why did you choose those pieces for this second installment?
um, one of them I got from when I did I Too Sing America, and like it just stuck with me, and so I didn't even revisit it, but it was still there. And then and that's with Flag Shake, so go check that out if you haven't. Or Black artists.
Yep.
And then I did trying to find another one. It was just like another one that really resonated. I guess resonated with me. Like I didn't relate to it, but it definitely like stuck with me. And like I like the way it flowed, and like the cadence it had in it, and it just kind of felt right, I guess.
Mhm.
And then the other one, I don't know when I discovered it, but I think when I was in high school, I took, this is gonna be a little bit of a tangent, but when I was in high school, I was in choir, not a singer, so, but I was in choir, and I think there's just like one day where all the guys or all the basses were messing around in just like one of the closed like practice rooms. And it was like, who can hit the lowest note? And so just like going down and down, I switched like even like the entire type of voice I was using, just trying to get lower and lower. So it went from just like your basic ooh to ooh, with like this whole trembling thing in it, which is fun to talk in. But I realized if I try to sing in it, I sound like a certain performer, and kind of went with that. And so it was like, this hit that specific song was like after the Harlem Renaissance, but he did come up in the Harlem Renaissance, and that the song was written for him because of his ability to bring people together. And so it's just kind of like all that, plus the song's well known. So it's just like a different, not necessarily a different take on it, but I also really enjoy the idea of like performing songs as like, or just reciting a song in like a kind of dramatic way,
Mhm.
which might not be the most original way I did that one, but there's other fun stuff that you can do with that. And then just going into with like the last stanza trying to hit that voice. And so it's a
Which
fun thing to
is
play around with.
very creative, and obviously not a lot of people can do it. So I think everyone will be excited to hear someone hit a low note solo um, with such finesse. So I definitely think that's going to be amazing. One thing you mentioned was the poetry, and some of the poems will have come after the Harlem Renaissance, but their influence is still there. For example, I did the first installment, and I write my own poetry, and a lot of my poetry is more like performance poetry or like slam poetry, but that is a direct correlation to the Harlem Renaissance with the cadence. Jazz poetry is something that came out of the Harlem Renaissance, which is poetry to music, which we still do today. There's another performer who's doing that exact same thing for the second installment. So it's kind of awesome to see how something we can do today in 2021 is directly related to something from 1921, and how we should pay homage to these people, because without them, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't have, a lot of them, even rap, like we wouldn't have rap, we wouldn't have R&B, we wouldn't have country, wouldn't have swing. Like there's so much we would not have without these people that came before us. And so hopefully we can appreciate them and get people interested and learn more, and also, see more of your faces splattered everywhere. That is the goal. Get everyone out and looking. So I think that's about all I have. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with? Anything that's on your heart that you want them to know before we set them free?
I was just going to say, give these artists who are so influential today the pedestal that they deserve and have been so long denied.
Mm.
Uh, that was like the only thing that came to mind.
No, that's great.
But yeah,
That is great, because they were denied then, and that's why they had to create something for themselves. And for the longest time, there was a denial as far as talent, education, um, basically just being able to live freely as yourself. And for me, this is a sign of rebellion or resurrection. It's that I am going to get to live as myself, unashamed, unabashedly, and I'm going to be loud and proud about it. And you just got to take it, because for
and you
so
can
long we couldn't be, and now is the time. So
and we can
I hope that
perform
everyone
without
welcomes us.
worrying about a paper bag test.
Yes, yes.
Barbaric.
There are a lot of things, and if people just, could do a quick Google search. I always tell people, do a quick Google search, and you will find a slew of things that will make you scratch your head and go, what? People did this? um, and I'm happy to see how far we've come. And hopefully with the support of, everyone watching and all your friends watching, I hope we can go even further because we can't do this alone. No man is an island. We do need everyone to believe in the same thing and decide that these voices and these stories do matter, and we're going to uplift them and we're going to make a change. So I hope that we all can make this change together. So, Trey, peace. Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Edward Pieces Here. That's and yeah, that's about it.
Keep the other ones personal. I understand.
Yeah, well, not even that. It's just like I don't post a lot anywhere. That might be where I post a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I do have a TikTok. It's also Edward Pieces Here. Like, find me. Like, that's it. Like,
Find Edward Pieces
is
here
here.
on anything, pretty much.
That's where I'm at.